I like this shot here because it's a good example of how a picture can be extraordinarily sexy and very interesting and not show any nudity whatsoever. She's, you know, obviously from the waist up completely covered, very much so, and the cropping of the picture at the bottom was intentional to just, you know, take it down as low as possible without really showing anything. And obviously when the picture was taken, she was fully nude, but cropping it in this way afterwards allows for a picture that really, you know, is, you know, in terms of what a picture shows or doesn't show. This picture really shows very little nudity, but yet it's still very sexy the way it's done and the way it's cropped. So it's an interesting shot. What you want to keep in mind when you're shooting models against a seamless backdrop like this, where there's nothing to distract the viewer either in the foreground or the background, you got to make sure that everything's spot on with the model, because that's all the viewer's going to see. And you want to make the pose perfect. The hair's got to look good. The eye contact in this case has to be right on. She's making a pretty difficult pose look very comfortable and relaxed. So when you're shooting models against a background that's you know, very simple like this one is, you got to make sure that she is perfect. This particular shot would fall into a more artistic or fine art category of nude photography. Using a white backdrop, as I mentioned before, really puts a lot of pressure on the photographer and the model to make the pose perfect, because anything that's slightly off will definitely be noticed because there's nothing to distract the viewer from it. In this case, what was difficult is posing her in a way that completely hid her upper body, so we end up with kind of a sculptural picture of just the legs. But that's just a question of working on it, communicating with your model, and finding a way to hide the upper body to make the picture look like this one does. This shot here demonstrates something that you'll want to keep an eye on, a little detail that you always have to be aware of when doing still photography. She looks like she's resting her head on her hands here, but actually she's not. Actually, the chin is barely touching the hands. The reason that is because if she were to actually rest her head on her hands like she would, you know, in a normal environment without a photo session going on, she would kind of be pressing on her left cheek, the left side of her chin, and it would give kind of a squished, slightly squished look to her face. So these are the kind of details you have to be aware of when doing photographs, that sometimes what works in normal life has to be altered a little bit in pictures. This is a magazine cover I shot of a woman named Vicky Vett for a magazine called Over 40. I include this here because it sort of gives you a good idea what you want to look for when you're shooting magazine covers. Obviously, if you're familiar with these types of magazines, the cover model also appears in a layout within the magazine. And you want to make sure you link the photos in some way to the pictures that appear within. In this case, you know, the easy way to do it is the lingerie, whatever wardrobe she was wearing in the layout inside the magazine. You want to use it when you're shooting the cover, so there's that visual link between the two. And you want to, you know, you have to make sure most magazines, you know, want you to have no pubic hair, no nipples visible, and you can do that by, you know, using hair to cover or her hands or position. In this case, the lingerie works out well because it covers those spots, and with very minimal coverage, it still covers those spots. So this is what she was wearing in the start of the layout inside. All I did here, added to it, was the flower in her hair. That gives a little bit of an extra stylistic touch to the shot.
and gives the editors who choose the cover something. They see it and they think, oh, that's a nice touch, it might stand out a little bit, it's a little interesting aspect to the shot. I usually shoot cover shots before shooting the layout for inside the magazine, because when you're starting a set with new wardrobe, new hair, makeup, etc., the model's going to look the most, perfect when you begin. If we would have waited till the set of pictures were done that we took for inside the magazine, her hair might not look perfect, and she'd have to put the lingerie back on, and it might not be perfect, and I might be, tired or even bored by that point and just want to get things over with. And with a cover, that's the shot that's got to be the best, the sharpest, the most perfect. So do it when both you and the model are the freshest, and that's at the beginning of the set. Okay, hope that helps.
This shot here is one of my favorites. I took it from a high angle with a wide angle lens, and usually that's probably not something you like to do because wide angle lenses can really distort people's faces. But the way she has her head tilted to the right, it makes it okay, and she still looks pretty in this shot. And I just like the expression. I like the extreme angle from above, and the wide angle gives it kind of a unusual look. And it's really one of my favorite pictures I've taken. So there you go, a look at some pics that click and the reasons why they do. When you're shooting your own stuff, always remember, sometimes it's the smallest details that make the biggest difference.